Hey, welcome to part 2 of the games that I played at AVCon in the Indie Games Room 2017. This is a run-on sentence. You don't need to have seen part 1 for this part to make sense, but maybe check it out afterwards, or if you want to go now, but then come back to this one. Again, I'm going to be keeping as many links as I can for the developers and the games in the description, so definitely check them out. And once again, these are not in any order except for how I played them over the weekend. So let's get into part 2, which are the games 6 to 10 that I played. Delve is by Hammer 1. It was made by a group of TAFE students in 6 months, which is pretty incredible. It's a first-person puzzle platformer and it is absolutely beautiful. I saw it from a distance across the room and it drew my eye, and then I asked it out on a date. It's set in this really wonderful jungle environment and it looks like it's cel shaded, and when I spoke to them they said all of the textures in the game were actually hand painted. It was box modeled, and I think that was based off of the course that the students are doing. They're studying game art, so they've actually taught themselves how to develop this game just so they could put it together, which is again incredible. It just blew my mind that they've put something together in that short amount of time and it's not even their focus of their studies. It was really fun just chatting with the developers. I think I was at the game for, I don't know, probably like 40 minutes or something like that, just chatting with them and also watching everyone else play through and see all the puzzles and just get blown away with how the game looks. Unfortunately, the team is going their separate ways after they finish their course. Some of them are going on into uni for further study, others are moving into the industry, and others are starting up, I guess, their own game development companies. If you look at Delve as a portfolio piece for the students, I think it definitely means that these guys are someone to watch out for in the future, because if this is what they can do in 6 months, I'd love to see what else they can do later on. Rising Dusk is by Studio Stoby. It's a puzzle platformer inspired by Japanese folklore, and the developer actually lives in Japan and told me he was inspired by a specific book. I think it was called Yokai Attack or something like that, and after reading that he wanted to make this game. A yokai is a demon, just so you know. The game is about a girl who accidentally walks into the yokai realm and she's got to find her way home. The gameplay is about coin collection, so as you go through the levels there are all these blocks with different numbers on them and you collect or don't collect coins, because when you have that number or higher corresponding to the box you can't land on it anymore, so you have to decide which coins to collect to get across the level. I actually got told by the developer like maybe you shouldn't try to collect the coins, because the first level is this whole row of 1 boxes and there's a coin floating right in the center, and if you collect it you don't make it across the gap. But I was really hoping that maybe if I timed it just right I'd be able to land on the edge, so I went through it like 4 times, 5 times just dying, and yeah, they interrupted me with like, hey, maybe don't be stupid, but nicer. I really like pixel art style games, so it definitely drew my attention when I was in the room, and the animation is really smooth as well, which is really nice. In the demo, the yokai that you encountered were more obstacles than enemies that would kill you, and I really liked that because then they became a part of the puzzle as well, because there are collectibles, there are the lucky cats. So you need to sort of maneuver the coins and the boxes to get the yokai to interact with things the right way sometimes so that you can get the lucky cat. And I really liked that the enemies weren't just killers like Super Mario. It's a thinking platformer, I guess, which I liked, because then the challenge is not so much in the jumps, although maybe it will be later on, but in the demo it was more about which coins to collect and in what order, which I really liked, because then you've got to think before you leap. Is that the saying? I feel like there's a saying about that, right? Look before you leap. You've got to look before you leap. I spoke to the developer about where he's hoping the game will go, and he actually mentioned perhaps making a mobile version sometime in the future, and I think this style of game would really suit the mobile platform. Rising Dusk actually has a Kickstarter going on right now. You can download the demo from there. There's also updates constantly about the development of the game, and also background information about the yokai and the development process. It's all really interesting. Definitely check it out. I'm going to be backing it, and enjoy the demo. Dimension Jump is by Red Point Games. It's a precision puzzle platformer, and I hate alliteration. I didn't initially see this game when I was in the room, and the developers approached me and were like, hey, do you want to come and play a platformer where you jump through dimensions? And of course, yes. I was absolutely blown away. The art style is super simple, and I think that really lets you focus on the level design, which is incredible. And the couple of levels I did I found quite simple, and that's because they were the easy ones. There are 90 levels in the game, and the community can actually build more and make custom levels, which is really cool, and the difficulty definitely ramps up towards the end as you go through, you not only jump through dimensions, there are dimension locks, there are teleportation, there's gravity switches, there's lasers and enemies, and it just grows. And I think the precision really comes into it. Really encourages you to go and go and go again until you get to that rage quitty point, in which case you put it down and then you start again later when you've calmed a bit. Dimension Jump was made by a 2-person team, and both of the developers had been making games since they were around 10 years old, which is pretty amazing to me. They said they don't just try to focus on one type of game, they try to make different styles, and the project that they're working on right now is actually a first-person shooter. There's also multiple challenges to play through the level, so you do your first playthrough and then there's a speed run achievement and a collectibles achievement, which I think is a really clever way to increase the longevity of the game, as well as add a different way to play the game, because when there's different goals it changes how you move through the level, and I think that's really interesting to push the player to actually consider how they approach it and to get them to approach it in a different way than how they initially ran through it. It's currently available on Steam if you want to check it out for yourself. I went home with a copy from AVCon and I'm really enjoying playing it, so have a look if it's your kind of game and let me know what you think. Underground is by Endoplasm Gaming. It's a survival game set underground. I guess that's where it gets the title. And I am absolutely horrible at survival games, apparently. I don't think I've ever actually played one before, and I just died constantly in this one. It has a polygonal art style, which I really like, but apparently that was a hardware limitation, but I think it created a really cool feeling to the game. It starts with you underground, and your goal is to get to the surface, but to do that first you have to go through and mine and craft and defeat enemies and get quite deep, I think, before you can go back up, because the overworld has been taken over by things too strong for you to fight. I did not get very far. There were bugs in there, and the things that you fight, they looked like cockroaches and they creeped me out. So apparently I'm not made for survival games at all. I should just stay well away from them. Even though I was scared by everything, I think it was really fun. I enjoyed playing it. It's something that would take me a fair while to play through, and I think for my first foray into the survival game genre, I really enjoyed it, and I liked that this was my first time. That makes it sound a little sus. The Poison Pawn, a Tex Murphy Adventure, is by Chaotic Fusion. It's got a really interesting backstory where it was originally started as a remake of the 1998 Tex Murphy Overseer game. Then later on, partway through the project, one of the original developers, Big Finish Games, heard about it, and they've now thrown their support behind Chaotic Fusion, and it's actually a full sequel in its own right. Chaotic Fusion is actually a really interesting development team because they're truly global. They've got people in their team in the US, Germany, Belgium, and Australia. So when I was talking to the developers showing the game at AVCon, it was interesting to hear him talk about the challenges that creates. I'd never heard of the Tex Murphy games, but they're a point-and-click adventure series where you play as a detective in, I think, a future post-apocalyptic world. Even though The Poison Pawn is a point-and-click adventure game, Chaotic Fusion had a VR setup at AVCon. Basically, the development team believes that VR is perfect for an adventure genre style of game, so they're developing the VR experience of the game as well, and believe that whether you play the game in VR or not, the game is going to be just as amazing. This was my first experience with VR, and it absolutely blew my mind. It is so immersive, and I already felt like I was quite an immersive game player already, and this just threw me right in there, which I guess is the point in VR, so it's good that it does that. I just got in there and I just wanted to look at everything, and I wanted to pick up all the pens and the pencil holders and just sort of hold them. And it was just really fun. I think I was entertaining people walking by because I was sort of exclaiming a bit while I was playing it. I think not having any familiarity with the game and not knowing how to use VR properly unfortunately led me to not have the right experience with the gameplay. I didn't get to go through many of the puzzles because there is a lineup, and of course I think developers need to run through as many people while they're showing at AVCon, because that's the point of the indie games room, is to show people your games. So I really wish I could have got to experience the game, because it seems like the kind of game that I would absolutely love, solving puzzles, having crime, that dark storyline, dystopian sci-fi kind of future, and it's just something that ticks all the boxes of things that I'm interested in, so now I want to go and check out the series. I guess basically this was my first teaser trailer into the game series, and VR, yes, but the game itself, and I definitely want to check it out, and I will be keeping an eye on it so that when it does come out I'll be able to get it for myself. So those were the games I played at AVCon. Thanks for hanging around and listening to me. I'd love to hear what games you guys played and whether you played any of the ones that I did and what you thought of them. I'm a massive fan of the indie games room, and I'm already looking forward to next year and being able to see what games are going to come up then. Bye! Oh, go back and check out part 1 if you haven't seen that. Now bye.